Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It should be illegal for Scottie Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview, and we got a big one for you. It is a huge day of racing on Saturday over at Saratoga. It is the Travers, the Midsummer Derby. Scott, we have a small field in the Travers, so we'll save that race for the final segment, but it is a big card from top to bottom. There are 5 Grade 1 races and an all Grade 1 Pick 5. So even if you can't find a big price in the Travers, I'm sure there are a couple races throughout the day where you could find some races that you want to play.
Yes, outstanding card, as you mentioned, 5 straight Grade 1s. You've got a Grade 2 earlier on in the card. You got a couple really good-looking maiden specials, some allowances, some big state-bred races. So while the Travers isn't the best version of itself in terms of betting, there's a lot of races that are.
And we want to let you know that for the next couple weeks throughout the meet at Saratoga, the new DRF tool, DRF AI, is free for you to use. So test it out. If you're going to play the races this weekend on Saturday, give it a try. Chat.drf.com. Ask it whatever you want to do for your handicapping, for your gambling. Scott, I make it easy on myself. I'll ask it to find me some 10-1 shots and above that they think have a logical chance. And those might be some horses that weren't on my radar that I could take a second look at. So chat.drf.com to take a look at that AI. Scott, we're going to look at 3 races on the Saratoga card. The first of them is race number 10, one of the more competitive and well-balanced of these Grade 1 races where you can honestly make a case for any one of the 8 horses. None of them would be an absolute shock in here. As we start with Patch Adams, this is what's cool about this field too. You have a few horses like Patch Adams, like Barnes, like Chancellor McPatrick, whose connections took a shot to see if these horses might be Kentucky Derby horses, right? And they are horses that just didn't really want to go that far. So now they've cut back to sprints. Patch Adams has been excellent since he cut back to sprints. His two races most recently, both wins, and one of them was right here, Scott, in the Grade 1 Woody Stevens.
Yeah, you mentioned Patch Adams and Barnes. They were 2 of the favorites early on to be the Kentucky Derby winner and especially to be in the starting gate. But Patch Adams, as you mentioned, has been really good since cutting back to the 1 turn for Brad Cox. My biggest question, because it's hard to poke holes in him, he's never been down on the inside, though,
Yep.
And is that going to impact his trip in a different way? Gino, is it going to force the hand of Luis Saez or the short price? That's the one question I have.
Absolutely, because the way he's won races recently, and in that last race, he got such a perfect trip, just kind of sitting out in the middle of the track, letting everything develop in front of him. So when you're down there, if he ends up being 4 or 5 lengths back because he gets shuffled, that's just something he hasn't done. You want to make sure you don't take too short of a price on that. What's interesting about this race, Scott, is you have a lot of these horses that are pressers. Anyone that's looking at the pace projector can see that the 2 Midland Money is probably the quickest horse in here. He's such an enigma, though. He's such a wild card because he has 2 races. They're separated by 15 months. 15 months. So he raced back in June of 2024, and then doesn't race again until August of this year. Feel like you know what you're going to get from him, though. He should be right out on the front end. This is a real acid test. We just don't know how good he is. He's certainly quick.
He is. It'd be surprising with a good break if he's not right on the lead. He did ride a good rail in that last win against far lesser here at Saratoga off the layoff, but clearly you would think this was the plan. They spent $650 for a son of Chancelot who stands for just $5K. So they're trying to get their money back here all in one swoop and get to grade 1. He's going to probably take some catching, but the question is, how much will he be pressed?
He's one of 3 Bob Baffert trainees in this race. The second one is Barnes, who you were pointing out was one of the top Kentucky Derby projected horses early in the year. He felt like he was Bob Baffert's big horse to start. And then he just showed us he didn't really want to go that far. You look back at his form now, and all of a sudden you see 2 losses to Journalism, Baeza in the mix, and you're not really as hard on him now as those horses have gone on to do well. I feel like cutting back to this distance is just going to suit him really, really well, Scott. I feel like he'll sit a nice trip off the pace. Just feels like a good spot for him.
It does, but he's probably going to take money. It's, big name horse for Bob. I would expect him of his 3 to take, the most money pretty significantly. And yeah, we might say he didn't want to go that far. We could also make the case he matured earlier than some others. He was, caught the crop before others matured or before those horses got good. As soon as he met Journalism, he was no match. So I think I'm against him. But to your point at the beginning, Gino, nobody in here would really surprise.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't shock, but I don't want to take too short of a price on him, Scott, because you said we have a lot of horses like that. Even Chancellor McPatrick, they were precocious. They were quicker to be matured. They were farther along than some of these horses right off the bat. But it does seem like a lot of the horses in this field have caught up to Barnes and Chancellor McPatrick. Here is Chancellor winning most recently. Now, this was in the Curlin. This was a pretty game effort because about 5 yards from the wire, he did not look like he was a winner, and he really just stuck his neck out. So I want to give him credit, but he's going to have to step up off of this effort again. This was also a race going longer, and now he cuts back to 7 furlongs. So I didn't know how to read Chancellor McPatrick in here.
I've never been a huge fan. I think he kind of beat up on some of the softer 2-year-old grade 1 races in New York last year. There were good horses in there, but when you look at kind of Barnes and those sorts, they were stronger out west and continued to be into the winter and into the spring. In fact, Chancellor McPatrick, that was a restricted stake race, the Curlin, where you couldn't have a win in a graded stake this year. So I think this horse is a cut below, but he is going to probably sit back and make one run, which could be good enough to hit the board.
We move to Verifier, who's an undefeated 3 for 3. He's been close in all 3 of his races, Scott, on the lead in one of them and then sitting just off. He defeated Smokin' Wicked and Captain Cook, who we're going to see right to his outside in the next 2 stalls. But it might have been because of the trip that day. He was drawn to the outside. He got a pretty good trip. Horses like Captain Cook were down to the inside. I think they were forced a little bit more to show speed. So this could be a tricky spot for Verifier, a horse who has speed now on both sides and will certainly face the toughest field he's ever faced.
Yeah, I think you use the term acid test for Midland Money. Same as for Verifier. He does have the, 3 starts under his belt in a row, which is the positive compared to Midland Money. He's going to be probably half the price. He had a very stress-free trip last time and did take advantage. The races before it were against softer. So drawing in the middle of the field, we're going to find out how good Verifier is.
We move to Smokin' Wicked. This is a really cool Louisiana bred. And our colleague Mike Beer and I, we always liked this guy, Scott. We were kind of waiting and hoping for a big performance. We tried to get him a few times, and then he really put it all together when he won the Amsterdam, which was a grade 2 on the 25th of July at Saratoga. Here he is that day. It's a really big performance. He earned a big speed figure. The buyers are the ones that Daily Racing Form uses. My biggest concern with him is that it feels like you wanted to have him last time because he ran his really big race then. I don't know if he's going to be able to put it together here, and this is a tougher group, but I certainly respect his ability. He's one of those horses that kind of punches up a little bit, Scott.
Yeah, you don't want to leave him on. Is he going to really be 6-1? I think he might be higher. No disrespect to our
Yeah.
colleague David, who does the best job in the business, but the Louisiana bred. I don't think you want to get a beat underneath by him, but I think it would be a bit of a surprise if he got to the wire first.
Another one of those horses who was good early on in the season. Captain Cook won the Withers, and then he was favored in the Wood Memorial. He really does seem like a horse, though, who just didn't want to go longer. That mile and an eighth just seemed a little too far for him. He cut back to 7 furlongs, Scott, but he got caught on the lead. I'd love to see him sitting off a little bit from the outside because I don't think he's out of touch with a group like this.
Blinkers off, new barn goes into the Todd Pletcher barn. So I think that's a positive. He's going to get a good trip here on the outside, like you said, down on the inside last time. Has to run the fastest race of his life, but I think that's well within the range of outcomes here.
Yeah, this race just comes down to who you like a little bit more. I mean, Matticat Road from the outside, he's only won one time in his life. He wouldn't be a shock to win this race. He stumbled a little bit at the start, and that might have took something out of him when he lost the Woody Stevens to Patch Adams, but he's really honest. You feel like he's going to be forward, and it's just tough to really knock anyone in this field all that much. It just kind of comes down to the prices.
1 for 7 with 4 seconds would be the biggest knock. We talked about Patch Adams being on the inside. This is a horse that's been down on the inside in 2 straight. Maybe Johnny V gets to relax and experience that stress-free trip.
Let's move to selection, Scott. Honestly, you could throw a blanket over this field. Nobody would shock me. And that's why I think we both go to bigger prices. When you feel like a race is wide open, you're looking for a big price. I'm looking for a bigger price. Give us your top 4 real quick.
Yeah, Captain Cook for me. I've got a lot of respect for Patch Adams, Verifier, and I think Matticat Road has a shot. But I'm going to take the biggest price on the board with the barn change and the equipment change.
2175 for me. When we return, we'll talk to the horse of the year from last year. Well, not to her, about her, Torpedo Anna.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
In race number 9 on Saturday at Saratoga, it's the Grade 1 Personal Ensign, and we'll get to see the reigning horse of the year, Torpedo Anna. Scott, it's funny to say she's been disappointing this year when she's won a couple of her races, including a Grade 1, but she hasn't really taken a step forward based on speed figures, and she hasn't really run to the level that she ran last year when she was at her fastest. So when you look at this field, she certainly is the one you kind of start with and the horse to beat. But if you go through these horses individually, if each of them were to show up with one of their better efforts, this would be the best field that she's ever faced. I mean, Raging Sea, Darth Vader, Leslie's Rose, Randomize, all would be capable on their best day. So if they showed up with good efforts, Torpedo Anna may have to work a little bit in here. Let's meet the field for the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. Race 9 on Saturday at Saratoga, 500,000 up for grabs. Randomized starts things out, Scott, and you just know what you're going to get from her. She's a multiple Grade 1 winner. She wants and she needs the lead. When she gets the lead and she's able to clear off, she's just a different horse. She gets comfortable. She's able to settle. When she doesn't get the lead, you just don't really expect her to be around late. Here she is at Monmouth Park, beating Darth Vader and getting the lead in the Molly Pictor. But 2 starts back in the Ogden Phipps on the sloppy track, she just didn't like it that day and she was nowhere to be found. She likes Saratoga with the inside draw. I feel like they just have to go and try to get her on the lead in here.
I agree that they're going to go. I think that she's a one that hasn't necessarily developed like you might have hoped. She was really good early on. She's got some big wins still recently. The Molly Pictor was a step down in class. She's got to prove it to me. And as we'll talk about right now, there's a horse right to her outside that I think has the exact same running style.
And if you go through the field, I kind of talk about this sometimes, Scott. In my head, I play the races out of 100 times, right? There are versions of this race out of 100 where Randomize, Dazzling Move, Darth Vader doesn't want to be too far out of it. Bernie Take Charge wants to go. Leslie's Rose wants to sit close, and Torpedo Anna always wants to be close. So there could be a version of this race where all of these horses are pushing each other, and one of them is Dazzling Move. I respect what she's been doing as of late, Scott, but it feels like she would need a career best effort to get the better of this group.
She might find a field one day without a filly like or a mare like Randomized or another one that would really going to put it to her. And maybe if she was drawn on the inside, there would be a change in tactics with Random. You just never really know. But the way this drew, I don't think it did Dazzling Move any favors.
You look at the projector, you see the number 3, Raging Sea, way towards the back. I just don't know what to do with her, Scott. If you're playing her off connections with Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt, she's obviously, very accomplished. She's obviously got some of the best connections, but she just has not progressed this year at all from last year. She actually wins the Grade 1 La Troyenne, but it was a soft renewal. The speed figures came up really slow for that one. And then her last 2 races, she was behind Darth Vader, Dazzling Move. She was behind Leslie's Rose and Dazzling Move. And while she finished 3rd in both of them, she was not close at all and just passed some tiring horses late. If she floats up and is a much bigger price, then maybe I could get involved with her, but I don't think that's going to happen with the connections that she has. So I'm kind of against her in this spot.
Yeah, you're going to see people play her also because of the race shape that you just spoke out when you can see from the pace projector. She's going to take all of the connection money she will take, and also those that are going to see this as a race that's going to fall apart. I think she's gotten worse this year. The La Troyenne, I thought she was going to, was a starting point for her. Wasn't good comeback in terms of numbers, and she's been dull since. I'm against Raging Sea.
She was just much more consistent last year, too. Even when she didn't win, she was closer in races. She wasn't so far out of it. Darth Vader is really honest, Scott. I like this mare. She won the Ogden Phipps, and it was coming out of a race where she had a lot of trouble in the La Troyenne. She might have been best in that race. So she turns the tables on some of these fillies and mares in the Ogden Phipps. And then in the Molly Pictor, we saw Randomize got the lead that day. It felt like Darth Vader was a little bit flat, but I think she might be able to bounce back here with another decent performance. It comes down to trip. Can she sit maybe right behind some of the speed horses and then fall into a really nice trip here? What do you think about Darth Vader?
Well, the La Troyenne was a lot better than looks, to your point. That 4th was maybe, I bet her back in the Ogden Phipps, and we had everything go right over a sloppy racetrack. Really, no one else fired in there. I think she's a cup below, but she should, I don't know how far below. So it's going to come down to trip. Maybe she gets the best trip in here, but Johnny V is probably going to have her too close to the pace.
We move to Bernie Takes Charge. This is a New York bred stakes winner. She had a big race back in February at Aqueduct that wouldn't be too far out of competing with a group like this. Mainly, it just comes down to running style in this field, Scott. She's pretty much a one-dimensional speed horse, and it just seems like the 2 horses down on the inside both want to go to the lead. And then after them, you have maybe 3 horses that could be really pressing right behind the leaders and probably classier than any horses that she's faced. I respect her, but I just think it's a tough spot for her with her running style.
She's coming into the race in the best form of her career, but it's hard to envision her getting the right trip, to your point. I guess you could make the case that she draws outside the true main speeds, but she's up against it.
When I envision how this race shapes up, I'm looking for horses that might be able to sit in that like third and fourth spot, just behind the leaders, maybe inside or just to the outside. And I can just envision one of those horses being Leslie's Rose in here, Scott. She just feels like she's okay with sitting a couple lengths off the pace. A lot of these horses don't really want to be too far out of it. I think she'd be fine sitting 3 or 4 lengths off if she had to. She's in good form. She comes off a win in the Chuvy. She hasn't always put back-to-back races together. That would be maybe one of my concerns, but I think her ceiling in here is as high as anyone. And I think she's going to get a really nice trip.
She just broke really sharp last time. I think that's why she was up, real close. She likes to be up close, but she's drawn to the outside. She's got the leading riders doing everything right. I think she's a great play if she's 9-2.
It's tough to knock Torpedo Anna overall, even how this year she hasn't really stepped forward on the speed figures, but she's won 3 of her 4 races. She's won 11 of 14 overall, and she's run very well at Saratoga. I'm a little worried about her trip in here, though, Scott, being drawn to the outside. She always wants to be close. There seem like there might be a couple to the inside that are faster than her. I could just see her getting parked a little wide.
She's just a filly that I have a hard time betting at her price. She doesn't stand out. She isn't going to get the trip, maybe potentially, but she wins a lot of races and she likes this racetrack.
And that will hurt her from a gambling standpoint because she has that reputation and she takes a lot of money. Let's move to selections. I think we saw this race pretty similarly. We both were looking for a little bit of value. What would be the price that you would be like your bottom line for Leslie's Rose?
7-2. I think she's going to get bet off that 9-2 morning line, but I really like her chances.
Yeah, both of us on the 6, 3-1 and above feels fair to me. 6-7, 4-3 for Scott, 6-4, 7-1 for me. Don't go anywhere. We'll talk sovereignty when we return.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson per me and Tom Pelissaro. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know it's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
They're saying that he might be back for the start of the playoffs, but their playoff spot isn't secure with the Mariners bearing down on them and the wild card completely in flux. So this is like borderline red alert because the pitching staff has not been good. We have not seen good stuff from Framber Valdez. So now that the back end of the bullpen is not good, I don't know what to make.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
See some of the best 3-year-olds run over the next few weeks. This week, the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont winner, the Jim Dandy winner, all going to be running, will be running this week, and he's going to be a heavy favorite, Scott. 2-5 on the morning line. That's why we saved this race for the final segment, because it's just a small field. We can get through them individually. Magnitude is the one who we will start out with, and he is such a wild card in this race because if you're just looking at Magnitude's resume on paper, his last 2 races are pretty comparable on paper and on figures to the races that Sovereignty has been running we just have no idea how good this horse is because the company that he's faced, the horses that he's been defeating, just are not in the same category as the horses that Sovereignty has been defeating. We're not talking about journalism and Baeza and those top 3-year-olds. But for magnitude, he wins the Risen Star, then he's off for a few months, and he shows back up in that race we just had, the Iowa Derby. It was a perfect spot to return to the races, Scott, and he gets the inside draw. If he's got to be on the lead in here, that feels like what the connections want. That's how he wins this race. If he's able to clear the field and separate, we just don't know right now how good this horse is. It's a really interesting spot for a wild card to face the big boy here in Sovereignty.
It is, but the problem is his price is not going to be any good. I mean,
Not
you've
really
got to
bettable.
take on the best 3-year-old in the country, and he's going to be below 2-1. There's just only 3 real options in this race as we'll get through the rest of the field. And then you go back to his Risen Star, as fast as it was, he had everything his way. He crossed over Steve Asmussen and Ben Curtis' plan. They knew the inside was good and they knew his speed was good. And boy, did he take advantage. But this is a whole different ball of wax. And I think the way the gambling is going to go in this race makes Magnitude a little bit of an unfriendly horse to wager on, even though I'm excited to see how he does.
And he wasn't like a dominant top of the division horse before that Risen Star, right? It's sort of those last 2 races kind of came out of nowhere for him. He was 43-1 when he won the Risen Star that day. And you kind of set this up in this race. It feels like there are 3 horses that really wouldn't shock me. The other 2 would be big surprises. One of those is Bracket Buster. I respect this guy. He won the Pegasus, but he just doesn't seem like he's quite at this level. But it's a small field, so a couple of these trainers take a shot because you finished 3rd here. You're grade 1 placed in the Travers, and that does a lot for you. I just couldn't make a case for Bracket Buster.
Yeah, maybe if he was going to be the one lone on the lead, you could try to find a reason to think he can hang around. The distance doesn't look like it's going to be to his favor either. So Bracket Buster, to me, more likely to finish last than first by far.
In horse racing, you'll see blinkers, their equipment, they're like the goggles that you'll see horses put on. And what they do is they keep you focused. A lot of times, Scott, they'll be used to get horses to show more speed or just to keep them focused. If horses are a little bit green, maybe they're immature, then maybe they're horses that look around and they see everything that's happening. And now they'll only see what's in front of them. If I was going to pick out like a particular horse that I think would improve with blinkers, it would be a horse like Strategic Focus, because this horse has a ton of ability, but when you watch his races, he's green late in the stretch. He's still figuring things out. He absolutely should have won this race. He was the best horse here, but late in the race, he starts to zig and zag a little bit because he's just not quite all the way developed, probably physically and mentally. But I would not be shocked to see him run a much better race with the blinkers on and be straightened out and figured out, especially in a field where it does feel like there's only 3 real contenders.
Yeah, this worked out well for him because I think he was going to run in this race all along, regardless of how many drew into the field or how stacked it was. Horse that should have no problem getting the distance based on what we've seen in pedigree. If he takes a step forward, I think he's the major danger, unless obviously Magnitude freaks on the front end.
Sovereignty. He is now 5 for 8 with 2 seconds. He has just been so good. Scott, Derby winner, Belmont winner, Jim Dandy winner. He's probably as good as any 3-year-old we've seen in the last 5 years. I'd say at least. Like, he's that good. What's been kind of scary for me when watching him as a guy who likes to play against short prices, earlier on in his career, he wasn't very quick early. So that's how you were going to try to beat him if the race didn't set up for him. His last couple races, he broke right on top in the Jim Dandy, and then he could just pick where he wanted to sit. If this is who he is now, he's going to be really tough to beat.
Yeah, I have no desire trying to beat him. I know the Magnitude could get loose. He's run as fast of races. I've kind of learned that Sovereignty and journalism are really good, and trying to get cute against them, unless you're getting paid very well on the other end, is probably not going to work out well.
Rounding out the field is McAfee. 3 straight top 3 finishes in graded stakes, but this is just much tougher than those races that he's been in recently, Scott.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Maybe going to hopefully try to sit back and pick up the pieces. I could understand that move. If he tries to get caught up, he's hopeless.
We tried to set you up with the races that might be a little bit better and more enticing gambling races to start, Scott. For me, maybe Magnitude can wire it, but as you pointed out, even if he does, it's just not the value that I'm looking for. We'll just be watching Sovereignty. We'll see if he can get back into the winner's circle again. Best of luck to everyone on Saturday, Travers Day.